Welcome to Fan for Racing Radio. I'm Fan for Racing Sharon, and joining me tonight is Jay Huseman and Chris Crichton. Let's see if I can get this to work right. Okay, tonight we have our 60 round of 8 and what? Hot Topics episode number 2532. So we've got a lot to talk about here. Let's start with our usual first topic, which is how is the racing at Las Vegas for NASCAR Xfinity Series, the Cup Series, and the ARCA West Series. Jay, I think it's your turn to go first.
All right. Well, I know we did the previews earlier, and I said it, watching the Xfinity Series race for sure. My thought was there better not be any complaints about there not being racing up front for the lead throughout a race, because that race was the entire way. On the Cup side, you had it kind of a battle a couple of times. There was some changeover with pit strategies, so maybe not as much and as intense as in the Xfinity, but I thought it was good racing. We had some cars that, as Larry McReynolds likes to say, comers and goers throughout the pit strategy. And your winner, Denny Hamlin, being one of them. And for the life of me, I meant to look that up of what the issue he had early in the race. But they overcame that. They made their car better, and they had it on fire. I mean, on the high line, ready to go when the time was right. So I thought it was great racing.
Okay, for Xfinity and, well, you didn't see the ARCA West race.
Yeah, I say I didn't really get to watch the ARCA West race, but that was just the two at Las Vegas.
Okay. Chris, your thoughts?
So I really only caught the Cup race for the television side. I did get to listen to the Xfinity race on the radio, which means I got a completely different version, I think, than what most would have. It's hard to disassemble what was a good race versus what wasn't when you're listening to it, because it's always so much more exciting using your imagination and piecing it together than sitting in front of the TV waiting for something live to happen in front of you. As Jay said earlier, it would be hard to define that race as anything other than the typical spectacular racing that you see in the Xfinity Series. It had drama. It had, passes for the lead, and including, I think, a pass that was within 5 laps or whatever. It was definitely, the ticker was running down when Amarola used up a little bit of Connor Zilisch to get around, or at least that's what they were saying over the radio, that there was a little contact there and maybe a little puff of smoke come out of the back of the 88. So, look, anytime you have a has-been Cup driver that comes down to the Xfinity Series and is able to, use the skills that they learned for the 12 years that they were in Cup to pick on poor Connor Zilisch, I'm down for it. Connor needs to learn that he's going to get picked on every single week for the next 38 weeks when he hits the Cup schedule next year. So it's good for him to understand that. And look, I've seen Connor kind of start getting a little aggressive, right? He's not afraid to put the front of that race car, in places where it probably shouldn't go. So he has to learn a little bit of patience, and he's going to get roughed up a little bit coming up here soon. So Amarola just gave him a little piece of that, and I'm not an Amarola fan. I think I've stated that here many times before. But there again, when given the opportunity for what I think is the next superstar of our sport, to learn a little bit of something, I think that it's necessary. So I was glad Amarola was there to simmer him down a tad bit. As I've told you guys before, I am a major Connor Zilisch fan. Like, I love this kid. I tried to get on the William Byron bandwagon, but then he wound up in the 24 car, and that just makes me go, sorry. And no offense to anybody that's a Gordon fan. But when he was riding around in Kyle Busch's truck, I thought I had pretty big plans for him, being a Toyota driver, but that didn't happen. So, where we're at with the Cup Series, I feel like, man, that was it seems to be that there's a tale of two races, right? Like the first part seems to be where they're just riding around, and then all of a sudden chaos breaks out, and then most of the time it's in the final stage. What happened there with Ty Dillon? Is wild. That really changed the complexity of the race. It changed. I think a lot of us were waiting for the showdown of Hendrick versus Gibbs. It was going to be, was it going to be Hamlin and Bell versus Larson and Blank? I mean, Larson and Byron, or who was going to be the two versus the two? And then, out of nowhere, chaos began. And as I said, just kind of completely changed the race. I feel like it was exactly what it needed. Las Vegas isn't typically a boring race. I mean, I don't know. There's people in this room that love strategy. I love chaos. I mean, that's just the way that I am. Don't hate me for being a
We don't
fan
hate you.
of disorder. I mean, that's I'm a sports fanatic. Of course, I want something that draws my attention, something that will put me on the edge of my seat, and I believe that's exactly what we got at the end. So, judging for the whole race factor, I would feel like I could probably give it a B minus, but definitely enjoyed the end. Like that was something to see Denny Hamlin chase down a teammate and Larson. Like when he started sticking that 11 in the wind, I was like, this man seems to be on a mission, and he did not disappoint. I love one thing about sports is I never like the guy who wins all the time. I'm always judgmental. I have very few that I actually like upon the whole sports spectrum, and then something will happen and I'll change my way of thinking. A Peyton Manning fan becomes a Tom Brady fan at the end. How does that happen, right? I mean, it's like going from Superman to Lex Luger or something. I don't know, or Luther, whatever his name is. But it's Denny Hamlin. Like I'm on his fan club, dude. I mean, for real. Like, and it all started with the podcast. I think that leaving himself vulnerable and criticizing, and everybody knows what side I'm on with the lawsuit, right? So I think that there's a certain, in a time where NASCAR needs a character, Denny Hamlin fits it. And he got out of that race car with a completely different attitude than I think what a lot of us were expecting. You wanted the smart aleck, you wanted the sassy Denny Hamlin, but immediately in the conclusion of that race, you realized that it was going to be something different. Like this is the pinnacle of his career. This is something that he circled and said, "I'm going to get there." And it probably was somewhere about win number 36 or win number 40, where he said, "I want to get to that mark right there. I want to break that area." And we got to see that. And I understand that his father's in some health issues and stuff, and that's the reason for maybe the little bit different. We've got only gotten to know Dennis. I don't know if y'all have gone back and watched a couple of the kind of where Denny got started in his childhood, and his father was a trailer salesman, and they did everything they could to get Denny where he was going. Honestly, I found out all this years later as well. As started becoming a Denny Hamlin fan, I started finding out more and more about how Denny got his start, and that it was once upon a time in his career where he looked at Joe Gibbs and said, "I'm going to win a championship for you." And that's the one promise that he hasn't fulfilled yet. But that 60 seemed to really mean something for Denny Hamlin, and of course the vulnerability of having sick family members, especially one such as your father. We remember this with Eric Jones. I believe Daniel Suarez as well. The father is a big attachment for a young man's racing career. You know, not all of them have the story like Trevor Bayne, where he just, you know, went and slept on some couches. A lot of these fathers have sacrificed their lives, like Tom Logano, and even John Brickford, Jeff Gordon's father, right, stepfather. The sacrifices they made. Tony Stewart, I believe his stepfather as well, made a lot of sacrifice to get him where he is. But Denny obviously knows where he remembers where he came from, and that was sentimental for their family. And he's added his name to the 60th greatest all time, like the top 10 greatest of all win drivers.
Yeah. You're getting ahead, I think, on our schedule too.
Well, I keep getting that, but you want me to give my assessment of
the
stuff.
racing.
So I don't really know. I'll just pass the baton. I'll shut up.
No, it's okay. It's just that we've got that on our list too. So yeah, I thought the racing at Las Vegas was pretty good. It was it had everything you would want at Las Vegas racing. We had a little bit of rivalry going on between Jesse Love and Nick Sanchez. And it sounds like I listened to a few tapes or interviews today, and it sounds like it's something that's been kind of brewing over some time. And it kind of came to a head this weekend at Las Vegas. You had the veteran competing against the rookie, and the veteran came out on top this time. The rookie continues to make history, though. 18 consecutive races with a top 5 finish for Connor Zellage. And I'm a huge fan of Connor as well. And I don't have anything against Derek Almirola. I thought he got a little bit aggressive, and I know we've got that on our list to talk about here as well. So I'll kind of save my comments there. Denny Hamlin and the Xfinity or the Cup Series race, it was back and forth. Kyle Larson, it looked like he had it pretty much in hand. Christopher Bell was in there competing at times, and I thought maybe he would show up at the end. I was a little disappointed that he didn't. Denny Hamlin's been going after that 60 wins for a long time, and so he finally got it this week, so that's a good thing. I did think that he showed some humility. We saw him as a human being this weekend, and I think fans responded to that. It was an emotional victory for him. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I thought the racing was pretty good throughout. It shook up the points. There were drivers that had not so good days. Ryan Blaney was out rather early with his tire that went down out of nowhere. And I still think that sometimes that happens because they're playing with the air pressure on the tires in order to get more grip on the track. And it ends up biting them sometimes. So that we saw that happen. I know we're going to talk about this later, but that situation with Ty Dillon and William Byron, that was quite an incident that I don't think I've ever seen a hit quite as hard as that was. So yeah, there's a lot going on in all of these races. Joey Logano didn't really show up in this race. So I thought that was kind of interesting as well. So we'll see what happens. But I thought the racing itself was really, really good in both races. And as far as the ARCA Menard Series race, that race was good as well. There was Kyle Keller who was running second, 18 points behind Trevor Huddleston. Had a little bit of an issue. He got a flat tire. It sent him back. He was a couple laps down at the end of that race. But some other drivers kind of rose to the occasion. Robbie Keneally, I think, finished second. I think, was he second? Can't remember now. But he had a good finish. I know that. And so a lot of these drivers just had really good runs. They've got one more race to go, and that's going to be their race at Phoenix. That's going to be their season finale, along with the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Truck Series. So everything from here on out, it's NASCAR's top three, and then ARCA Menards West will join them at Phoenix. So I'm looking forward to these next two races. I think I know Taz said he thought Las Vegas was the wild card, but I think Talladega is going to be a little bit of a wild card too, because these 8 drivers that we have in the final 8 are highly competitive drivers. Jay?
Well, looking at it more, the more we talked about it, first off, the Xfinity, like I said, I don't know that I can say anything more about the racing that happened there, other than when we talk about the aggression, and we'll get to that in another topic. But on the Cup side, something you said, Sharon, I went back and I was looking at it. Christopher Bell was there. I mean, he finished 3rd, Chase Briscoe 4th. Top 4 were playoff drivers. Joey Logano was the 5th one in 6th spot. Now, I know that wasn't necessarily where he ran all day. He did the tire strategy thing, and that's part of what helped mix things up. Yeah. But also then you had Tyler Reddick, Alex Bowman, who were playoff drivers, but no longer, in there as well in 5th and 7th. Then you had Kyle Busch and the RFK cars. Again, I know for sure Brad Keselowski was a tire-ish strategy move, but Kyle Busch was hanging around just outside that top 10, got moved in with all the melee. So I think that Las Vegas does a great job. And again, we're talking about the first race of this round of 8 in the playoffs. I think it serves its purpose really well as far as that. When it comes to the mile-and-a-half first race, somebody generally locks in, not necessarily always, but so I think it's a great position for that track. And I know when we did the preview, we talked about that, of how long it has been that first race of a playoff round. So I thought it was good all the way around. I really did.
Okay, follow up, Chris. Chris, you're on mute. Mute.
I don't know what better scenario you can have than Las Vegas, Talladega, Martinsville than Phoenix. That's probably not just the best last month of racing, but it's probably the best 4 or 5 tracks that you can ask for put together. I mean, it's just the diversity of what these racers can do. And really, you start with the Roval, I guess. So that would be 5. It's definitely concerning that we would move backwards in a position where you're able to build this excitement, these different style racetracks with this elimination style points championship. That's probably a topic later on we'll probably get to, but it's awesome that we have the diversity in tracks going into the final 5 races of the season. I think that what we did see was that typically this year in these mile-and-a-half racetracks, there's been a lot of strength between the Toyotas and the Chevy cars. Not so much from the Ford camp. I think the Ford camp is better suited on these shorter tracks, the New Hampshire, Dover, Phoenix style racetracks. So it's going to be interesting how that kind of levels up going into Phoenix. And are we going to have 2 Chevys and 2 Pontiacs, 2 Camrys? Are we going to have a Ford driver that maybe picks up the win at Talladega, or possibly, at Martinsville? It's a do or die situation for Penske. I mean, look, I think that they're 7th and 8th, Logano 7th, and Ryan Blaney's 8th. So we got to pull the trigger, Ford, to get into that to get into that Final 4 scenario. So outside of that, look, I don't know about you guys, but I noticed Shane Van Gisbergen last couple of weeks. Well, 2 out of the last 3 races outside of the Roval, he's been competitive. He's been competitive at these ovals, and he was in position to have a really, really good run this past weekend until that caution. Um, I think on the restart that kind of ended his day there. But all in all, I think, as I said before, it was a great race. It had a lot of entertainment, had a lot of storylines. We were able to pick what storyline we wanted to follow the most. I think a lot of it was that, all of a sudden these Hendrick cars showed up and they were really, really fast. And now you've got, I think, we said who the seventh and eighth was, but sixth and seventh, I believe, Chase Elliott and William Byron.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a bit of a scenario change. So, yeah, we're coming down. It's the do or die situation. We got a wild card coming up. Las Vegas played their best hand that we could have for this chase format, and I think it was a really good race. Like there was like I said earlier, it was it had several storylines. So I'll pass it.
Yeah, okay. It was pretty exciting. I will tell you, it was actually Connor Hall who finished in second place in that ARCA West race, and that was his series debut. Also, Robbie Keneally, who I thought was in second, actually finished in third place, so he had a good run. Anyway, I thought you're right. I like where Las Vegas is on the schedule. I like, that this is probably the most challenging round for all of the drivers because everybody wanted to win this race at Las Vegas, not to be at the mercy of Talladega and Martinsville. But there are some drivers who are good at those tracks. I know Ryan Blaney does have a win at Talladega. He does have a win at Martinsville. So we'll see if he can get things turned around. But as far as Las Vegas is concerned, I like where it is on the schedule, and I hope. I know they're kind of in a mode of changing things around a little bit so that it doesn't get stale, and I like that too. So we'll see how things wrap up. Jay, where do you want to go from here?
Let's see. Well, we can go down the list there. I know you got the Denny Hamlin. We've kind of touched on it. Obviously got the 60. And is this his year then? I'm not sure that 60th win is what makes it his year. He does have 6 wins, which would indicate such, but we also have seen the downs. Those are the upsides. We've seen that of a more sporadic. Now, he seems to be firing on all cylinders at the right time, as does Kyle Larson. So I really think it's between the two of them in what we've seen the last couple of weeks anyway, as far as your top 2. I think Christopher Bell is kind of the dark horse, been very solid. So that leaves one open spot. When we've talked about his maturity level and what's cost him championships before, I know we had the hiccup, if you will, of bumping with his own cell phone car. Kevin Harvick said that might be what derails his championship season in shot. And then he had to dust up with his teammate at Joe Gibbs Racing. And you got the lawsuit. So overall, I think he is in a good position and has seemed to handle all of these things he's got going on. And as well then as his father, the emotional win of that number 60. So, yeah, I think it is very possible. I think he's got to go through Kyle Larson, and he did this weekend. So who knows?
Chris, you're on mute.
I love the idea of Denny Hamlin versus Kyle Larson. I like that. I think that's what the sport needs. And it would be great to see those two drivers come down to Phoenix and put on a show for the race fans, especially if it involves beating and banging, coming to the checker flag. Where I think I've said about Denny Hamlin, the ability to you feed off of all of this, right? Like he's fed off of all this, exactly all the things that you said, Jay. He's fed off all this, and he's created this monster that's inside him. He's having one of his most best career years ever. I know he's probably had more wins in the past, but have they been as meaningful? And where he is with his age, and where he is with car ownership, and saying he's signed his final contract with Joe Gibbs Racing. He's in a good spot, even though he's got all this other outside influence. I think it's made him better. I think it's made him stronger. I think it's made him somehow be able to put all that aside and focus harder because he knows that his time is up. And just to live 5 minutes in Denny Hamlin's head, I think for any of us would be the coolest thing in the world, because you would have to really see how he's able to micromanage each of these issues that's going on, and each of these little hats that he has to wear, and then when he gets into a race car, none of that matters. He wrecked his own guy. He wrecked his own car. He kept his guy that he's paying to drive his race car. He kept him from winning a race because he wanted to win it worse. I mean, that's competitive spirit. I love that. And I hope it pays off for him. Like I said, there would be nothing greater for this sport than to see Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin battling on that last lap for a win at the checker flag. And that's what NASCAR needs. That's what NASCAR needs to save the playoff system. That's what NASCAR needs to grow fans. They say that they don't have any superstars, but it's not the driver's fault. They say, well, because there's not drivers that are winning, it's too diverse. No, it's because you're not marketing these drivers like we've marketed them in the past. You're not dialing in on a Dale Jarrett and the big brown truck. You're not doing the Tasmanian Devil commercials with Dale Earnhardt Sr. I mean, Ken Schrader was more marketable than some of these drivers. Like, there wasn't a sponsor that Kenny Schrader didn't have that he was doing some kind of commercial for. It's NASCAR's, just as much NASCAR's fault that we don't have a superstar, because when you have Christopher Bell, you got Kyle Larson in the same league, I think those two in themselves should be superstars. Then you have William Byron, who, he's pretty Manila, whatever. But then you got Denny Hamlin, who's, this long driver that's been around a long time. He's, up to this year, basically had the same sponsor on his car for years. But he hasn't been marketed that well. And it's a shame, because NASCAR has just as much ability to make these guys superstars as what they have in themselves. But in somewhere or another, they seem to have lost how they market drivers for the world stage. And it's not by going and racing in Mexico. We didn't have to go race in Mexico for Dale Earnhardt Sr. to be popular, or Jeff Gordon. But Denny Hamlin is having the greatest year of his career, in my perspective of it. And I think that, he's going to make it really exciting for us in the next 3 races.
Yeah, I think he is having the best year of his career. I think that, this year is a little bit different. He's had little slips and slides, I would call them, with regard to things that have hurt him in the past. But overall, I think he's moving in the right direction. He showed a lot of humility, I think, this week when he won his 60th career win. You could tell it meant a lot to him. You could tell that he had his father on his mind. And when he got out of the car and he said, usually this is where I would I'd kind of play with the crowd a little bit, to put it mildly. And he says, but not today. And so I think he showed a lot of humility that I think endeared him to the crowd, and they responded to that. And I think if we could see more of that from Denny Hamlin, I think he'd have a whole legion of fans. But he's tends to be a controversial kind of guy. And so that controversy doesn't always endear a lot of fans. It divides the fans. So I think it could be his year for him to win a championship. And I think that it's what I'm going to be tuning in to watch and see this year. From my perspective, I'd rather see Denny Hamlin win it than somebody from Hendrick Motorsports who's been caught cheating all year long. So that's just the way I look at it. We'll see what happens. I mean, I hope we get some other drivers that can challenge him throughout the season or throughout the remainder of the season. I hope that other drivers like his teammates, Christopher Bell and Chase Briscoe, I'd like to see them up there continuing. I'd like to see the Team Penske drives, in particular Ryan Blaney, be up there contending. And I think that they do have a chance at tracks like the tracks that are coming up, like Talladega and Martinsville and Phoenix. Team Penske in particular have been good at those tracks. So I would like to see more of those contenders in there, but I am happy for Denny Hamlin. I'm not typically a fan of Denny Hamlin, but I was happy to see him get his 60th victory. I was happy to see him maybe be a strong contender. He's got 6 wins on the season. He's number 1 in the points. So this is his best chance at going and getting that championship.
Do you see him taking his foot off the gas in the next 2 races?
No.
Do you see him moving over for a teammate to win?
For a teammate to win? No, because Denny Hamlin's going to be competitive. He's in it for himself and his team. He's already told everybody that.
I like that mentality.
Okay. That's fine. I just don't like the mentality of I'm going to wreck everybody to win. That's not the mentality I like to watch on the track. I like to watch them race competitively, be respectful of one another, and go after that victory. Because to me, I could go out there and wreck everybody and win. To me, wrecking somebody doesn't show any talent. I want to see them show their talent on the track and show us what kind of skill they have to go after that win and be a champion. That's what a champion does. A champion displays the skill that they have. And wrecking cars on the track does not display that skill, in my way of looking at things. So, Jay, was there anything more you wanted to say?
Yeah, as you guys were talking, I went to Racing Reference of whether or not this is Denny Hamlin's best career year. And it depends on how you want to look at it. In 2006, his rookie year, he had 2 wins. They were both at Pocono. He finished 3rd. And if I'm not mistaken, that was in the time period of the 10-race chase format. If I'm wrong on that, please correct me. Then you had a stretch of 1 win, 1 win. 2009, he had 4 wins, finished 5th. 2010, 8 wins, finished 2nd in points. And that is his best points finish. Then he had a 1-year win and a 5-year win, finished 6th. Then it was 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 0. And then you hit the 6 and 7 win years, but he finished 4th. And there we were into the championship 4. So although he had the wins, he was still the last spot in that championship 4 battle. Then we went 2, 2, 3, 3, and he bounced again 4th, 3rd, 5th, 5th, and then 8th. Now this year again, having the 6 wins is one of the highest win totals we've seen from him. 6, 7, and 8 are his highest win totals. He obviously will be at least 4th in the points. And that, again, goes back to it's based off of 1 race. So tough to say. But, and I was trying to also look at average finish through all that. Seemed to be about the same, just either over or under 10 point. Right now he's at 13.3. I think one of his years he was 14 point something. But that's mixed in with the wins. So that's where I say that roller coaster. The other thing, as you were talking about it, and
yeah, Jay, can I interrupt for just a minute? The one thing that Racing Reference does not take into account is his maturity level. And I think he has displayed a higher maturity level this year than he's ever displayed before. There have been slips and slides, as I mentioned earlier, but I do think the maturity is going to make the biggest difference for Denny Hamlin. But go ahead and say what you were going to say.
Yeah, that's why I said if I was just going statistically wise as far as that career year when we're talking about it. The one thing I look at then, though, and this past weekend may have changed that, is Phoenix has primarily been a Ford track over the past years with the championship race there. The contenders or what drivers that mixed it up that weren't in the championship four have been Chevys. Toyota's kind of third on that list, I would say, with the exception of maybe Christopher Bell. And I did hear, though, this week on one of the radio shows throughout the day, I can't remember which one, talking about with somebody from the team, talking about how Denny Hamlin, who normally doesn't spend a lot of time on sim, did come in, do a lot of sim time, and as well as asking, what can I do better as a driver? Not, hey, you need to do this and give me a better car. What can I do differently and better as a driver? And that does lead into what you were saying as far as the maturity level, the commitment to not just you give me what I want, what can I give you? And we work as a team. So I was really surprised to hear that because, again, they said he spent a lot of time as far as sim time. Again, Vegas, I think some of it was going after that 60th win because that was a very high mark for him that he was striving for. He said that's why he took out his own team-owned car, was he wanted that 60. But the championship comes with that. So there again, what is he willing to do this year that maybe he hasn't in the past?
Okay, Chris.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't really have much more to go off with Denny Hamlin's quest to become a Cup champion. Other than you look back at some other drivers in their 20-year career marks, and where were they at this point in time? I think Dale Earnhardt was winning the Daytona 500 in '98, started in '78. So he was done winning championships by that time in his career, I believe. So what Denny Hamlin's been able to accomplish. I think Mark Martin in '09, right? It was '09 that he had that stellar year at Hendrick. You go back 20 years before, it was '89 with Roush Racing. Even Darrell Waltrip, by the time that he got to this part of Denny's career, Darrell was running around in the Pennzoil #1, driving for an injured Steve Park. So what Denny's been able to accomplish at this age, and what he's been able to do at this point in his career. First of all, back a long time ago, they were older when they got into Cup. Denny was really young when he started. So his 20 years is a little bit offset from the typical ages of the older generation drivers. The only driver that I can really come up in this era that had that type of success at the latter part of his career was really Kevin Harvick. And we watched how quickly he went from a 9-win season to a no-win season. And that happened basically overnight. And so I think that's, you have to put in perspective where we are in his career and why it matters the most right now. I wasn't meaning that he was being selfish and to wreck people out or anything to that matter, Miss Sharon. What I was basically saying is he's not going to give anybody a chance to beat him, even if it's his own teammate. And I think that's the mentality that you need to win a championship with this style of basically Russian roulette with 4 bullets in the chamber. One bullet in the chamber, four guys that are going to go for it. So he has to be selfish. He has to be about himself. He has to know that this is his last chance to leave this sport a Cup champion and fulfill that promise that he gave to Joe Gibbs many, many, many years ago.
Yeah, I listened to an interview by Chase Briscoe, and the question he was asked was, what's it like being a teammate to Denny Hamlin? And his comments was that he didn't see anybody who worked any harder than Denny Hamlin. He felt that Denny Hamlin really works hard at his craft, that he has spent a lot of time on sim racing, trying to perfect his skill. Now, he didn't put it into the perspective of he's only done it this year. When he said it, I kind of thought he was saying that he does it all the time. But it's possible that maybe this year he's put more effort into it, to the point that Jay is saying. But I think it's interesting that his teammates are looking up to him and recognizing that he puts a lot of effort into what he's done this year. So we'll see if it bears fruit for him this year. That's where the proof in the pudding is when it comes to Phoenix. Is he going to be able to win at Phoenix? I was trying to think what his stats are at Phoenix in particular. And I don't know if race.
Give me a second. That's what I was trying to pull that up as you were talking. Here we go. 40 races, 2 wins, 17 top fives. Oh, I lost it. Go back to Hamlin. 23 top tens, 3 poles. Which ones are my average start and average finish? Okay.
What about wins?
2 out of 40 races.
Okay.
About half are top tens. Average start 9.4, average finish 10.6. And I also looked at the last several races. Toyota's only won 2, but they've been spring races, again by Christopher Bell. Denny Hamlin's win came back in 2019. So, but I think a lot of it has to do with where you're at in the season, honestly, of that. Again, if you're not in the championship 4 hunt, maybe being a little more respectful and not pushing as hard to mess somebody in the championship up. I mean, or you're trying to chase Ross Chastain, who's behind you, whatever you got going on.
Well, and 2019 was pre-next gen car. So if that was his last win there, he has
that's another fact. You're right. That's an absolute another factor.
And the track's been reconfigured, I think, in that time frame as well. So it'll be interesting. Usually I look for Racing Insights or the other guy that I follow on X that gives a lot of the stats with regard to how these drivers are performing with their next gen car in the most recent years at some of these tracks. And it's pretty enlightening because a lot of times, I always like to look at the box score, but the box score is a little bit deceiving because it encompasses their entire career and the different types of cars that they've driven. It doesn't necessarily encompass what's happening with the next gen car. So I like to see that kind of separated out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Chris, you want to go first on the round of 8 shuffle and how things have been shuffled up in the playoff for the round of 8? It doesn't have to be just for the Cup Series. You can go to the Xfinity if you want, or the other series.
Yeah, no, let's stay on the Cup Series side. I know those drivers; those are pretty easy. I'll say it again. I wish that the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series put as much emphasis on those playoffs drivers as they do in the Cup. But I also wish that it was all connected together. That way you could follow it more closely. It's always a reach, a grab to find out where they are at in their playoffs versus the Cup, because of course the Cup is the most important one to stand firm on. So I'll stay on the Cup side. Those are the ones that I know the most. And we're right where we want to be. We have the top 8 drivers in the Cup Series. We've got the 3 top tier teams of the Cup Series. It's, the Hendrick versus Gibbs versus Penske, right? Right now, Penske feels like they're, having to play some catch up, but move over, right? Because the Mayo's coming quick into Talladega, and that's a blue oval. That's a blue oval stadium right there. Robert Yates horsepower, the Yates Roush horsepower there. You're going to see something you've never seen before at Talladega. That's what they always say anyway. And then Martinsville, it used to be that was kind of a Hendrick dominant racetrack, but over the years, I think with Logano and Blaney both, they've gotten significant wins there for their career. So, it's going to, those 2 drivers being at the bottom does not make or break this playoff. it's the in between. It's really the Chase Elliott and William Byron enigma right now, because I think you kind of expected, Chase Briscoe to maybe be there, but William Byron definitely not. And Chase Briscoe's in the top four, so you've got kind of a swip swap between third and fourth, and I think fifth and sixth, and look, it's going to be exciting. We've got the best 8 drivers where they should be. Anybody that doesn't like the playoff system obviously doesn't follow it well enough, because when we get to this point in the season, those guys that are typically there, they somehow or another earned their right to be there. And I know that Logano's probably not had the best of year, but he's with the best of team, and this seems to be I hate to say it, more of a team sport these days, right? Like it used to be, single car franchises that went out to try to win a cup championship on their own. But the days of the underdog story with Alan Quickie, those days are gone. So now we've got what we've got, and we've got powerhouse teams that have a whole lot of money coming into them. And where are they at? They're sitting first through eighth, exactly where they should be for the type of money that's gone through these organizations. So I don't think that that's a coincidence. The second tier teams, from the Ross Chastains to the RFK cars and all, they are what they are. They're second tier teams, and unfortunately, this is not their year to be diving deep into the final four of the playoffs, which you very rarely would see anyway. So I have no complaints over the playoff system. If they want to go to a 3-race deal, where they, the last 3 races of the season, last 4 races of the season, make it count to that, I'm okay with making a change if it means it's more significant. But what was talked about earlier this week with whatever on Dale Jr., with the fact that if Christopher Bell come in and told me I won 10 races 4 years in a row and I didn't win a championship, I just find that to be odd, right? Like he could do that in a normal championship in the old style format just as well, right? I mean, come on,
Exactly.
Sharon, let's be honest here. The guy that won the championship every year was the most consistent, not the one with the most wins. That's very rarely the way that would happen. Davey Allison had one of the most stellar years in '92, but to hear Larry Mack tell the story, he was winning one week and wrecking the next, and in the hospital, I think 3 times that year for injuries, and it suffered in car crashes. So, I have no complaints. I feel like we're right where we should be.
Rusty Wallace was the same way. Checkers or wreckers, and he only got 1 championship out of his career.
Right, but then you look at like Terry Labonte, who's a 2-time Cup champion and has no standout victories at all in his career. Like, you're talking about a 2-time champion. Did he ever win the Daytona 500? No. Did he ever win a Coca-Cola 600? I don't really remember. Did he win Darlington? I think he got into a shuffle one time at Bristol with a man by the name of Dale Earnhardt. I think that's what
he got shoved. He got shoved to victory there.
Right? We definitely don't remember his 1-win season where he won a championship, or maybe 2 wins. I'm not really sure.
I think it was 2.
1 or 2 wins that year that he won the championship in the 5 Kellogg's car. So, I'm excited about the storylines. I'm excited about coming down to the final 3-4 races of the year. Phoenix is going to be hot, baby. It's going to be hot, and it's going to be, it's going to be the right teams in it. It's not going to be the wild card team of Josh Berry. It's not going to be SVG, who won all these road course races. It's going to be your top guys, the guys that are marketed to be at the top of your series. I don't know who can complain about that.
Okay, Jay, I know you had a comment here.
Yeah, and I said it even earlier when I was just talking about Hamlin. I think it's Hamlin and Larson as your top 2 for the most part throughout the season. Bell is right on that edge, and the fact that Bell has won the 2 most recent spring races, but Chris just said it, then you got the heat of November. Not that it's not hot in Phoenix at all times, but obviously the track is a little bit different. I think the key element is who comes out of Talladega. When I look at it, does a Ford triumph at Talladega and put themselves into that championship 4? And if it'd be a Penske Ford, I think that factors in is their history there. But I haven't seen. I would have to lean more towards Blaney than Joey Logano. Yes, Joey Logano is in it, same as last year. He was around that cut line, got in, and did win it, but has just not shown this year. Blaney is in that category you were just talking about, winning or blowing up, having a motor issue or a tire issue.
He's had
I think
a lot
if
of
he,
DNFs.
yeah, so I think if he could say win Talladega, I would put him as having a real shot at the championship just because of that. But now factor in going back to Denny Hamlin. He has got 3 weeks to focus on Phoenix. He can spend 3 weeks of sim time on Phoenix, not even worry about Martinsville or Talladega. Not to say that he's not going to go out there and try and win or race, but we've heard drivers talk about that. You win this first race, yeah, your focus is on the championship and what you can do at Phoenix. From touching up the car from the crew side to you as a driver, you're going to be looking at and focused on Phoenix. If you still have to win your way in, then you got to focus on Talladega and or Martinsville. Denny Hamlin doesn't have to do that.
Yeah, you brought up a good point there with the time that Denny Hamlin has to focus on Phoenix that none of the other drivers seem to have. But with regard to the shuffling of these drivers, you've got Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Chase Briscoe. If you remember coming into Las Vegas this weekend, the points were extremely tight. Now Denny Hamlin's kind of put a buffer, if you will, between him and the rest of the field. Kyle Larson's 35 above the line. He's 35 points to the good. Chris Bell is 20 points to the good. Chase Briscoe is 15 points to the good. And then if you go to the other side, it's almost the same. 15. William Byron is 15 back. Chase Elliott is 23 back. Joey Logano is 24 points back. And Ryan Blaney is 31 points back. So those guys are kind of in a situation, Ryan Blaney in particular, he needs a win if he wants to advance to that next round. Earlier I would have said, and it's almost given at any given time, it always changes who I think that fourth driver could be. Because William Byron, early in the race at Las Vegas, you would think it would be William Byron that would be in that top 4. Then he had that situation with Ty Dillon that nobody could have predicted would have happened on the track. And those are the unknown things that can happen that can really shuffle up these point standings. Chase Elliott was running up in the top 10, top 5 for a good part of the race. And then all of a sudden he finished way back in 18th place. And that's why he's 23 points back now. Joey Logano, everybody thought he might be the guy to win at Las Vegas, and Joey Logano was there. He used a 2-tire strategy to put himself up front and at the end of the race, but he did not end up winning. He's still 24 points back of the cut line. Ryan Blaney had that tire go flat, and that ended his day. So you never know what can happen at these upcoming tracks. You got Talladega where the big one can happen, and through no fault of your own, you could be caught up in a wreck that could take you out, and all of a sudden you find yourself below that cut line. So it's going to be interesting how this all plays out, because there are so many unknowns with a track like Talladega. Now, Kyle Larson is just 4 points away from Denny Hamlin. So I would agree with you that at this point in time, it looks like it's going to be a Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson battle. Christopher Bell is 19 points back. Chase Elliott is 24 points back. Those are your top 4 drivers. But then you go below the cut line. William Byron's 39 points back. Chase Elliott 47 points behind the leader, and Joey Logano is 48 points behind the leader. Ryan Blaney 55 points back, and we know that you can only get 61 points in a race. That's the maximum number of points, and that's if you win every stage and if you win the fastest lap bonus and pretty much dominate the race. So these guys that are in the back are really going to be looking for those wins at Talladega and Martinsville. And I think it's going to be super competitive, and these guys are going to be giving it everything they've got. So the sim time that Denny Hamlin's going to get for Phoenix between now and when they race at Phoenix in 3 weeks can certainly help him and give him a little bit of a competitive edge, I think. So we'll see how it plays out, but I think it's going to be fun to watch.
So we know where we're at with this, right? At least one driver right now will get in on points. I would almost guarantee that the next 2 races are going to be won by somebody who's going to race for that championship. Denny Hamlin could possibly win 1 or 2 of these races coming up, which would put more emphasis on racing for points. But I believe right now where we're at is 7 drivers competing for the next 2 wins. And you're going to have to go through Denny Hamlin to get there. Now, Denny Hamlin doesn't have a very good track record at Talladega. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure if Denny Hamlin has a single win at Talladega. And I know that would be a head scratcher. If he does, it's from a long time ago. Because he doesn't typically run that well at Talladega. He's got 3 Daytona 500 wins, but Talladega has always kind of been a hiccup for him in the years past. So I think the emphasis right now is, Chase Elliott. If he had one to circle on the calendar, it would be Talladega. It could be Martinsville, right? Talladega is a hometown win for him. Martinsville is a place where he's been there before, and he's won that race. Larson, I think that he has to pretty much look at an X at Talladega and more focus on what he can possibly do at Martinsville. William Byron has to feel like he's in a jam right now, but William Byron has been fast at Talladega. He's a good super speedway driver. He's able to keep himself clean. That's your driver that's really going to focus right now on garnered points week in, week out, because he may not be the favorite to win at either of these 2 tracks, but he's definitely consistent enough to put together 2 solid races that could get him a points way in. He's got to have a couple of drivers have some bad luck. I think Chase Briscoe is the enigma of this entire chase format and where we're at now. Based off the first part of the season, you would write Chase off directly. Even though he's been fast for qualifying, he hasn't necessarily put together what it takes to race for a championship. Now, that completely changed about 10 races ago for Chase Briscoe. I think he's more of a dual threat than what we're giving him credit for. And then we got Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell, I don't know when the last time he missed a Final Four, but he seems to shoot himself in the foot every single time. And this just may not be the year that he's able to shake the monkey off his back either. So that leaves Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano. Joey, as I said before, he knows both of these tracks very well. And Ryan Blaney, I think, is like he's got 2 wins at Talladega in the last 4 years. So, definitely Blaney's going to circle both of these racetracks. I think him and William Byron will probably be on the same strategy. I'd like to win, but I know consistency is going to really matter based off of there will be at least one driver getting in on points. Joey Logano feels like a Hail Mary. Like, he's just going to throw it all in the basket. He's going to throw him over his shoulder. He's going to go out there and he's going to put the pedal to the metal and see if he can't get him one. Will he go through Ryan Blaney to get him one? Absolutely. And that could lead into destruction for Team Penske. Could it also backfire and Denny Hamlin do the same thing at Joe Gibbs Racing? Could he possibly wreck a Christopher Bell or a Chase Briscoe in the mindset that he's in right now? Absolutely. And then we would be going into Martinsville or somewhere else saying, well, of course, in Martinsville saying, what in the world happened at Talladega? Denny Hamlin jumped the gun. But I heard somebody use the impression something bad. I don't know where that was. I think it was on one of the interviews. One of the guys said it. So I won't use that type of language here, but we could definitely see something like that occur. We could see teammates ruin another teammate's chance for championships. And I'm buckled in, ready to go. As I said, I couldn't ask for 3 better tracks to end the season at, right?
Are you checking your seatbelt, Jay?
Yeah, I think Chris brought up an interesting scenario, though, for when you talk about Kyle Larson. I think he's in a position, you said, with Denny Hamlin getting the victory, that one driver at least, is guaranteed to make it on points. So Kyle Larson, not having the best track record at Talladega, could try to go for maximizing more points, staying out of trouble, and not putting himself in a hole by getting wrecked out, and then going after it in Martinsville as needed. So I think that's a possibility of again, not to say he's going to hang and ride at the back like we saw Denny Hamlin do. That doesn't always, rarely actually works. But have that in his mind. Whereas, like you said, Blaney and Logano, they're pretty much got to hang it out right here, right now. And those two drivers, when it comes to Talladega, are always that way. Fortunately, they're a little bit better at it than Kyle Larson. So the interesting thing would be to come down to Martinsville. We have seen Chase Briscoe win. I'm sorry, that might have been Bell. I might be thinking Christopher Bell when he won in advance there. But you talked about the Hendrick cars. If it's needed by Chase Elliott, William Byron, and Kyle Larson, all three from Hendrick, who have been really good there, and that might go back to what you said, Sharon, the next-gen car. And then Denny Hamlin could play spoiler there again of he's got nothing to lose, go out and win another race just for the fun of it, if you will. But that does then go back to the points issue. So I think it's a really interesting scenario, and Talladega going to play a huge role in it. We'll see what kind of strategy these drivers do take with it.
Now, Denny Hamlin does have wins at Talladega, but they're wins that came earlier, like in 2014. He also has a win in 2020, but that was the last time he won at Talladega. Of the playoff drivers, and the next gen era is 22 through the current year. Chase Elliott won there in 22, Ryan Blaney in 23, Tyler Reddick in 24. And then it's non-playoff drivers, Ricky Stenhouse and Austin Cindric, who won it in 24 and 25 this year. Let's see. Ryan Blaney also has wins in 2019 and 2020. Joey Logano's wins all came pre-next gen car as well. I see 2015, 2018, 2016 I missed. Those are when Joey Logano had his wins. So of the playoff drivers, those are the drivers that have wins. And so you could have a driver like Tyler Reddick, who has won in the next gen car, has a win at Talladega. He could be a spoiler at that track. Ross Chastain has a 22 win. He's a non-playoff driver. Bubba Wallace is good on the super speedways. He has a 21 win. That was pre-next gen car. So that's kind of interesting. For Martinsville, when I look at those tracks, let's look at the 22 to current year, the next gen figures. William Byron has 2 wins. You've got Christopher Bell has 1 win. Kyle Larson has 1 win. Ryan Blaney has 2 wins, and Denny Hamlin is the most recent winner, that was earlier this year. So it's kind of interesting, right? I would say it's going to be between William Byron and Ryan Blaney at that track, maybe Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson, but there's more playoff drivers with wins at Martinsville than there are playoff drivers with wins at Talladega. So that's just another interesting way to look at all of that. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how this all plays out in this round of 8 and who the final 4 are that are going to make it into the next round. And I think there's so much that can happen. It's really difficult to predict, I think, at this point, who those final 4 are going to be. Okay, next on our list here is What the Heck?
Mm-hmm.
Ty Dillon and the number 10 team. What were your thoughts on that? Jay, I think it's your turn to go first.
Yeah, the What the Heck pretty much sums it up. And I think the spotters, the broadcasters, William Byron, when he got out of the car, all pretty much had that same statement. Like, what was that? You said something about it earlier, and if you get a chance, go back and watch William Byron's in-car cam when it happened.
Yes.
I know he wasn't at a complete stop, but the closure rate and how hard he hit Ty Dillon. You know, they said, hey, there's a caution, there's an incident, and they started talking about it, and they showed William Byron's car go by, and I'm like, man, he crushed the wall. And they're like, no, he hit another car. And I was just like, wow. Because that right front, the tire was bent in. I mean, just destroyed. And then to see it from his in-car cam, I mean, it's scary, honestly.
Yeah.
And you know, they were talking about that, why it happened. That shouldn't have been expected based on pit cycles and all this. The coordination between spotters. I don't know what went wrong. A horrible situation because, yeah, I mean, he absolutely crushed that car. You know, it goes back to, I think it was Jeff Burton talking about old school. Hey, the hand out the window would have given, you know, indication. Don't rely on technology and the spotters or thinking somebody else did their job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, there's a lot of things that, one of those call it the perfect storm. You know, William Byron had just was trying to get back. I think he had to do a pass through for a speeding penalty, maybe. Oh no, he lost. He got loose and lost the lead, and had to gather the car back up and clean his shorts, I think. So yeah, was getting back up on the wheel, knowing he had lost the lead in spots to Kyle Larson. So was going back at it full throttle. You know, Ty Dillon, again, for whatever reason, was coming into pit at that point. William Byron talked about it during that part of the race. The best way is hook the very, very bottom. So, yeah, he was going to be underneath them. I know they talked about whether Ty Dillon was too high to try and even make that. They said no. I mean, that wasn't the lowest they had seen, wasn't the highest. He was just in the middle, but was kind of just out of the blue, unexpected. And, yeah, come to almost a dead stop, or it seemed like it, right in front of a hard-charging William Byron, and it was a disaster.
Yeah, it definitely was. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've seen instances in the past with coming on or off of pit road. I think Kevin LePage had one of the most memorable ones where he entered the racetrack way too quickly, and then they basically made it a rule you have to follow a line all the way to the end of the line and then merge onto the speedway. I think you're going to see a similar rule written for Kansas. Obviously, they were taking advantage of kind of running mid-racetrack and then dropping down onto pit road and woeing up as quickly as possible. But to me, I just don't even fathom how something like this could have been this is no clerical error. This is, I mean, first of all, as you guys pointed out, you're supposed to stick your hand out the window. Like,
Yeah.
why didn't Ty Dillon stick his hand out the window? Second, I think that we all seen that the sun may have played an issue into possibly a spotter realizing that he was slowing down depending on where the spotters were. I do know that they were traveling into the sun at that part of the racetrack. I seen that clearly from inside the cockpit of William Byron. So maybe, just maybe, there was maybe some sun interference there from the spotter, so he wasn't able to relay it quick enough to William Byron. It did seem that that Ty Dillon was slow. Like he was, the closed in rate was pretty fast. So
Yes.
Ty Dillon had to have been going really slow. And so there should have been some kind of communication to William Byron that Ty Dillon was pitting. The hand out the window is just a common courtesy to that keeps foolproof, right? That you want to simply stupid, I think, is what I've heard in the past. Just keep it simple, and that's Ty Dillon sticking the hand out the window to let people know that he was going to pit road. How this happens, I think that it does, and it's going to happen, and that's just racing. We see it more than often. Just somebody makes a mistake and catches somebody else off guard. Did it destroy William Byron and his chance to win that race? I think he had a good enough race car to challenge. Of course, as you said, Jay, he had then put himself in a compromised situation, which got him into the spot of the racetrack where he was. So, I really don't have this is a perfect scenario or whatever for this situation. It happened. NASCAR is going to look at it. I think that maybe there should be some earlier commitment to the bottom line in that area and not be, mid racetrack and then jumping down to pit road. I don't think that that's a safe manner to do things, especially when you have these Hendrick cars who really make a lot of speed off of cutting the bottom. I think that we've talked about that here, haven't we, Ms. Sharon? These Hendrick cars seem to be really, really fast through the corners, and they are getting every bit of that corner speed that they can. And, William Byron found himself at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It was the wrong place at the wrong time, and it was a horrific situation. It was kind of scary that because you mentioned that close rate was so quick that he came on that car. Ty Dillon's car was going it almost seemed like it was stopped on the track to me. That's how fast the close rate was. And I don't think he was necessarily riding high. I think William Byron intended to go underneath him, and in the process of going underneath him, he pushed him up a little bit on the track. But yeah, both of those cars were demolished as a result of that incident. And nobody wanted that to happen. So there's, it was, like you said, the perfect storm of the sun being in the way, Ty thinking that his spotter was going to relay the information. The spotter says he did. The other spotter says he never heard it. He didn't get the information. So it's just an unfortunate set of circumstances that led to that. And unfortunately, it ruined William Byron's day. And it put him below that cut line. So it is going to be interesting. We've said it before, Jay, what kind of distinguishes what champions do and what non-champions do is how they deal with adverse situations when they happen. I think William Byron handled that as well as you can expect somebody to handle something like that. He was kind of stunned by the whole thing and saying, I had no idea. And it didn't help that he was coming around a corner. You can't necessarily see out these cars as well as you might think that they can see. And he's coming around that corner, and all of a sudden this car that is going nowhere really fast, and you're coming up on it and you have no reaction time. So it just makes it an unfortunate situation for everybody involved. But you guys are right. Ty Dillon said he did put his hand out the window when he was initially going down. but I don't think anybody was there to see it when he had his hand out the window. He had brought it back in, and so it was just a really unfortunate situation there, that they could not get that done. And I just see that the Bears won 25-24. So it's just an unfortunate situation that happens. And we don't see it all the time, but that was one heck of a hit that destroyed 2 cars. And I hope Ty Dillon keeps his hand out the window a little bit longer the next time, because I think just that simple act of keeping your hand out that window may have made all the difference in the world. So we'll go from there. Does anybody have anything more you want to say, Jay?
I don't know how much of I get to talk over Chris because he's on mute. I don't know, in this day and age, I don't know how long it was talked about that they were going to pit, or what, if there was a plan for Ty Dillon. But you would think in this day and age too, you're listening to all the radios. I know somebody, the crews, they talk about that. Were they specifically looking for Ty Dillon's? No. Again, it just amazes me that it did happen, of even if, unless it was a late, hey, something's blowing up in the car, I'm coming now, which it didn't appear to be. Like you said, that they said that told the spotter was supposed to have told the other spotter, that somewhere along the way, somebody would have noticed and saw it developing and said, hey, for Ty Dillon's, use caution, dude's coming behind you fast. For William Byron, somebody saying, hey, the guy in front of you is coming to pit road, and at least moved up half a lane for that quarter of a lap. But just the fact that it happened the way it did. I know Chris mentioned making a rule of how far back you got to be before you start your commitment. I just don't see them being able to do that. I mean, they have the commitment box, already, where you have to be below that or it's a penalty. To back it up any further than that on the track, and how, I just don't see there being a good way to police and make a rule as far as that.
Chris?
Yeah, money buys good people, lack of resources, not the smartest or the brightest people in their position, and all those lead to consequences and actions detrimental. It costed Byron. It could possibly have cost him a championship, or at least a run at it. You hate to see a Team Chevy take out another Team Chevy. You would think, with all the other crunching the numbers and moving out of the ways, that this is one of those, you should make sure that people know what you're going to do before you do it. So, it's really, we could try to dissect it as much as we can. It was obviously a mistake. I kind of feel bad for Ty Dillon. This seems to be the story of Ty Dillon's career. Always at the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't know where they go. I don't know where they go from here. Is Ty Dillon signed for next year at this team?
I think he has a multi-year contract.
I believe so, because he talked about a couple of his sponsors and them coming back next year.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, I see where in some instances where this could cost a driver his career. It could cost him his job. I don't necessarily want to put it all on the driver himself, but Ty's made some pretty big mistakes throughout his career, and look, he had some good sponsors on there. Field of Stream, that was a beautiful race car. As he said, I guess the funny of the race was he blamed his car of being camouflaged as the reason why nobody's seen it. So I think that was pretty cool. But no, I mean, I feel sorry for the guy. I think that he's had just as much talent as Austin Dillon, but nowhere near the opportunity. He's always had to kind of scratch for his own opportunity, and the way that colleagues been running and the resources that they have. I think that that they're lacking some of that, and it cost them, and it cost them big. And now they're going to be the laughing stock in the garage. It's going to be something that's talked about. And I mean, if you were William Byron and you saw Ty Dillon in the lunchroom, do you think you would go sit by him? Heck no, heck no. You give him some evil eyes and keep on going, and that's unfortunately what Ty Dillon's going to have to deal with. Was it all his fault? Probably not. But he's the driver behind that 10 car, and he's going to get laughed at, and he's going to get poked at, and he's going to get made fun of in the garage next week.
Well, I'm sure there's already some things out there from NASCAR Chasm and so forth. But yeah, it's just an unfortunate situation. And what they have to do is they have to compartmentalize and move on and put it in the rearview mirror and just focus on what they need to do at the next race. But our next topic here is playoff aggressiveness in driving. Is it too much so? Too aggressive? So Chris, you get to go first on this one.
Is playoff driving too aggressive? No. We're talking about a championship here. That's why people are trying to dismantle or say it's an insignificant champion. That's crap. It's harder to win a championship than ever. Like, it should mean more than ever. Like, these guys didn't just get here on fluke. Tell me the one Final Four where the drivers that were there didn't belong there. I don't know how you get to the Final Four.
Perspective real quick. I guess Justin Allgaier made some comments after the Xfinity Series race about it. No one in particular, but how aggressive the driving is in the series. It's as aggressive as he's ever seen. I
Coming
think there's
from a
been
guy
some other
who's
comments.
literally made a career riding around, beating up on little kids. I mean, we're gonna take that from Justin Allgaier, who basically blew his shot at Penske 20 years ago.
Well, I'm just saying he made those comments, but the other drivers have made the comments too about there being aggressive driving during the playoffs.
Where was Amarillo not aggressive throughout this season? In almost every race he's been in, he's been aggressive.
Okay, well, I'm just giving you some perspective.
I want the topic.
I'm not going to argue for Justin Allgaier.
No. I'm not directly arguing. I mean, I'm kind of defending the fact that we want aggressiveness, and the ones who complain are typically the ones who think that you should just move over because you're the senior captain of the Xfinity Series, right? Come on, Justin. How many championships have you won? One? You know, I mean, really, you want people to not race you a certain way, but yet we praise a Cup driver for coming on and teaching the young guys how to do it. Like, understand your position here, Allgaier. And I think probably what irritates him the most is, that 19 car's taking up a championship spot.
Well, let me ask you this question. Is there a line where it is too aggressive? Is there a line for too aggressive?
Maybe we've seen that with Austin Dillon at Richmond last year, but I defended that. I don't know if there's ever a line. Yeah, when the flagman comes over and shows the black flag, that's when it's out of line, right? I mean, till then it's chase them through the infield. Just make it happen, man. Make it happen. I don't think so. We're talking, what's wrong with boxing today? You don't get any knockouts. You get a guy dancing around the ring, throwing some punches, but you don't get the knockout anymore, right? We want to see, as a fan, we want to see that aggressiveness. We want to see that. I mean, for real. I'm
not a boxing fan. I don't want to see somebody knock the crap out of somebody else.
That's why you watch boxing.
Okay.
Of course, I want to see aggressiveness. I want to see guys who will put it all on the line to win. As everybody's got a plan till you get punched in the mouth. That's what Mike Tyson said. Justin, he's just whining. He needs to calm down. I think aggressiveness is part of the game. Have at it, boys. That's what we want to see. What
Okay,
about you,
Jay.
Jay? Is there ever a point where it's too aggressive?
Yeah. Obviously, when the flagman throws the black flag, but at that point, somebody's made that decision. I find it ironic that on the screens up here, I'm in the middle. Sharon, I'm fully aware of your viewpoint on bumper racing, using your bumper to race.
Bumper cars.
Yeah, and Chris is on the absolute other side. I am in the middle. And I'm the one that brought this up. From what I have seen this year, I feel like Eric Almirola has been a little more aggressive as a driver in his part-time role. Now, I don't know if that's who Justin Allgaier was talking about, because we also had this situation in Nick Sanchez and Jesse Love that happened. So I don't know for sure where who Allgaier was referring to when he said it. However, he was right behind that battle between Connor Zilisch and Eric Almirola. I think from my viewpoint, the biggest thing that happens is this: we have to side draft another car. And it's not even to make your car go faster, it is to slow the other car down. That's where I don't know that is necessarily the best technique. Make your car faster and drive away from them, not go up there and drag their car backwards. From now, again, especially when it comes to the short tracks, I'm okay with the bump and run. This is where I say I'm in the middle. I'm okay with the bump and run. Over aggressive, absolutely. I think the Austin Dillon was. Ross Chastain's was very much on that line. I could see that one going, and I'm talking about the Roval last week. I certainly could have seen where that could have gone either way. Do I want to see that of a driver? Absolutely. Throw it in there with no intention of making the corner, of just wiping them out? No, I don't. Am I okay with them getting in there and nudging them, moving them off the track to get by them? Yes. Which is what Chastain did, but he had to throw it in there to get to that point to even have a temp. So, like I said, that one was really right on the edge, in my opinion. And I don't know if NASCAR ever said, I know Denny Hamlin, I think, said he didn't get a clear answer on that. Had Chastain's move hit Hamlin, spun him out, and he moved on, and that put him into the next round, would they have considered that overly aggressive like they did Austin Dillon? Never got a real answer on that. So, and this goes back. Is this anything new? Absolutely not. Some people feel Earnhardt was overly aggressive. He definitely used his bumper. The only one I can think of, I think maybe the one with Terry Labonte we talked about, as far as super aggressive that I would have said was over the line. Again, that one was marginal, but that goes back to whether or not you agree with bumping them at all or how much. My biggest thing is I think the fans rate it based on who the driver is. If Chastain or Hocevar are the ones being aggressive, they're in the wrong. It's over aggressive. If it's Kyle Larson or Chase Elliott, they're just an aggressive driver. So that's where I have the problem, is I think it depends on who the driver is. If Joey Logano gets around anybody, or Chastain, yeah, they're a rough driver. They're a bad driver. No, they're not doing anything different than what Kyle Larson or Chase Elliott is doing.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm okay with a bump and run as long as you're not wrecking the guy. If the guy can still finish the race, then I think we're okay. But I don't like a dump and run. And I think what Ross Chastain did was overly aggressive, and it hurt himself as much as it hurt anybody else. So again, I am all for watching these drivers put their skill on display versus playing bumper cars, because the three of us could get out there and play bumper cars and wreck the heck out of each other, and it would be no talent at all to do that. So I know that they've come up with this idea of the side drafting and that side drafting. But again, you've got to be smart about how you're doing side drafting. Sometimes people don't use it appropriately and they try to do that side drafting when they're in a corner, and that's not going to work out very well for anybody. And part of that is the learning curve that these guys have to go through. What I get tired of hearing is people like, and he hasn't said it recently, but Kyle Larson saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, that was just a mistake," or "I didn't mean to do it." Well, you know darn good and well that he was overdriving his car and he did it. So he might not have meant to do it, but he was driving over his head and he got into the guy. So to me, again, that's not skill. And I watch racing to watch the skill of the drivers on the track. And that's what I think should be on display for a Premier Series. You know, this is NASCAR's Premier Series. These are supposed to be the most talented drivers. And sometimes they don't always put their best foot forward when they have to wreck the guy in front of them in order to get around him. I want to see them put their best foot forward. I want to see them display their skill on this track and go for that win. And I know it can happen. Denny Hamlin did it this weekend. He cleanly raced around all those guys and won that race. It surprised Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson, by the way, tried to squeeze him as tight as he could squeeze him against that wall and was trying to force the issue. They didn't wreck. So to me, that didn't cross the line. It's not my favorite maneuver, but it didn't cross the line and wreck the other driver. So to me, that's where the line is. If you wreck the other guy, you've gone too far. That should never be the case in my mind, to wreck the drivers in order to win, because it's not putting your best foot forward. It's not showing me what your skill level is in this sport, which is the premier level of NASCAR. So, Chris, follow up?
Yeah, I think that if you have the two best drivers of the year battling 1 and 2 going into the last lap at Phoenix, then you are right where you wanted to be as a sport. And don't close your eyes because you're going to miss something. And that's I mean, you know, that's the storyline. That's what sells papers. That's what sells tickets. That's what keeps people coming back. The perfect scenario is all 4 drivers are 1, 2, 3, and 4 within, you know, a thousandths of a second, hundredths of a second of each other, racing through the corner for the last lap. And you know, I don't think that you get to that point. If you're that aggressive of a driver, you're never going to make it to the chance to even try to be a champion. And we've seen that with a Ricky Stenhouse. We've seen that with other drivers that were just too aggressive behind the race car. They didn't get the opportunity to go race for a championship. The drivers that are going to be racing in the final 4, those guys can throw hell to the wind, right? Like that's where they're at. They have that ability. They should play that way. They should race that way. I'm not saying that the second place guy should run her down in a turn 4 and use 8 tires instead of 4 to get through the corner. But if that's the way it ends, who's going to complain about it? Like, I'm serious, you know? Well, but even then you have to put yourself in the scenario of knowing that, would you be okay with yourself running second? That's what I think we forget in this era of you have to win. When do you just decide to run second? When do you just say that, I can't send it in there because that's not going to be the right thing to do, when technically the person behind you would do it to you?
Not
Like,
necessarily.
well, do unto other, the golden rule, do unto others as you would like done to you. That's no longer, you don't, being the nice guys never win, right? That's what we've been taught. Like, you got to be down and dirty to win something, right? I mean, rich guy didn't become rich because he gave all of his money to charity. You know, rich guy's rich because he's greedy and selfish. That's typically how they get to that point. So as a racer, we're talking about the most selfish sport, boxing and racing. Everything else is just stick and ball, right? Those are the true sports of the world. That's a single man sport where only one person will win. And I think that's our sport is very selfish, and it should be, because it's racing. And if you're running second and you're okay with running second and not diving it in there and using 8 tires instead of 4, well, you and I may not be the same breed, because I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna send it, and I'll send apology
and if
cards
it's
later.
overly aggressive, you might get disqualified.
But
Okay?
if I made it to that point, I think that I've proved that I'm not overly aggressive. I've proved that I deserve a chance.
But if you're overly aggressive in a championship race, that's not the champion I want to see crowned.
If you can hold your own for 498
if you proud
miles,
for your competitor to win that race, I'm going to boo you, because I think that you're not a real champion.
you can boo me all you want to, as long as I'm looking at that championship on that mantle, baby. That's what I'm gonna.
But if you get disqualified, you're not going to have that thing on your.
We've seen that. We've seen that in years past. Ricky Rudd, Davey Allison, Kevin Harvick, Robbie Gordon. We've seen that in the past. Is that really what NASCAR is going to do? I guess if they really don't want Denny Hamlin to win a championship, that's what we'll see if he goes in after Kyle Larson.
If he goes too far, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
Jay, what are your thoughts?
Mark Martin, and I know you're going to say that's from a prior era. Martin Truex Jr. was in this must-win playoff format, won a championship, and did it his way. Even after having it done to him, and I go back to Martinsville. Just the overall side-by-side racing. And I think Ricky Craven and Kurt Busch, and amazingly enough, I would not necessarily have put Kurt Busch in this category, but yes, they bumped and they banged, but they did not wreck each other. They just raced hard. And I think this weekend, Eric Almirola and Connor Zilisch was similar to that. I think the biggest thing there was Connor Zilisch said, I don't have to do that. I have the faster car. I'm going to drive, and was staying down low. Again, Almirola came down to do the side drafting, and they got into each other, just as SVG did with Kyle Larson at the Roval. It's like, all right, you're going to bang me, I'm going to bang back. And it got a little more heavy, but they did not wreck each other. So I was okay with it, but I feel like Almirola was instigating it, if you will. And again, I relate some of that to we have to side draft and slow them down in order to pass them. I disagree with that. I'm not a fan of that move, honestly. Whether you hit them or not, to me, yeah, I think about it this way: right, you're putting yourself in that position, but just outright thinking about it, okay, if we're talking about a foot race, I can either outrun you or I can stick my foot out and maybe trip you. I mean, you know what I mean? Grab your shirt and pull you backwards versus me running forward. And that's where I think the difference is with this car. But this is with the Xfinity. I know that's primarily been said at the Cup level because you can't pass with it, but I'm not going to get off on that one. I like I said, did I see anything wrong with it? No. I think that the side drafting technique and maneuver leads to some situations. It wouldn't have had to be that way, though. And then you get blamed for the over aggressive.
And I have to ask myself, what do you tell your kids? If your kid's in a foot race, are you going to tell them that you have to win at all costs, even if it means knocking down your competitor? That's what you tell your kids? I would never tell my kids that.
Absolutely, because you know what? This generation is so many. Everybody's got to have a trophy. Only a few actually deserve one.
Well, I would rather see my kids be fast so nobody can catch him and knock him down. My kid was fast, okay? So it had nothing to do with knocking out his competitors. So I want to see the talent. To me, that roughhousing is the bully way of winning, and I don't want to crown a bully as a champion. That's the short of it.
You know, we all like it if it's our driver, but if it's Kyle Larson,
my drivers don't do that.
It'll be the most terrible thing in the whole world if Kyle Larson goes up and pushes Christopher Bell out of the way for the win. You know, to his fans, it'll be the best move ever. To those that don't like him, it'll be the worst move ever.
Well, that's human nature, I guess. But I want to see the talent. I want to crown a champion who shows me he's talented enough to cross that finish line without abusing his competitors. So, let's go.
Watch out with Eric Almirola.
Huh?
Watch out with Eric Almirola. He's the real wild card in all this, right? Like he's
going for the owner's champion.
He has nothing to lose. All he can do is spoil everybody else's fun.
No, as Sharon pointed out, they are battling for the owner's points.
Right. That's what I'm saying. They pulled out the other kid in the car so that Eric Almirola can try to win this championship on the owner's side. So he's gonna be the thorn in the side, and he's been aggressive all year. So no doubt Allgaier was a little upset with how aggressive Eric Almirola. Look, I've complained about Eric Almirola the last 2 years. He's very over aggressive, and then cries when somebody's aggressive to him. So you know, I'm not a big fan of the guy, but he could definitely he would move Connor Zilisch out of the way. I think he would move everybody but a Joe Gibbs racing car out of the way to try to win a championship. So, you know.
Well, that's probably why I'm not his fan.
Right.
I don't see that from Eric Almirola. In this part-time role, I feel like he has been a little bit more throughout the year or two he's been doing this part-time, but as a whole, as a driver, I would not have listed him as one of the more aggressive drivers. And that's what kind of surprises me. And I want to correct something, Chris, and I don't know if you took it from me. Justin Allgaier made the comment of the racing on the track. He did not specifically name Eric Almirola, okay? From what I heard, from the interview I heard. He just said the overall aggressive driving out there on the track.
Yeah. I do want to remind you guys that Xfinity bases their series, their motto is, this is where names are made. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very...
Because they're talented, not because they're being bullies.
So Sharon, I gotta ask you this one, because Chris said he didn't see the race. I didn't see what happened between Nick Sanchez and Jesse Love to even warrant the discussion they had. Did you specifically see what brought that about? Was that just another
that went wrong?
The same thing. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So you know, these guys. Anyway, Nick Sanchez and Jesse Love is our next one. Jesse Love gave an interview about it, and in his interview, he did say it's happened all year long, and I think it just built up to a head this weekend because he's racing for that championship, and you've got a non-playoff driver coming in and racing hard, which he should. I don't expect any driver to just pull over for another driver. I expect them all to race hard, but I think it was, and one of the things that Jesse Love said is that he hears the same thing from them all the time. And it's getting old kind of thing. And Jesse Love's emotions are on his sleeve right now because he's racing for that championship. So I forget whose turn it is.
Well, I don't know if what you got, Chris, because you said you listened to it on the radio. For me,
radio.
What's that? Yeah. Well, that's true. Maybe we'll get some perspective there. For me, I think there were several things, and that's what I wasn't sure if it was a side draft deal, but I took what you did, Sharon, that this has kind of been a building thing over previous races, not necessarily all about that particular incident or race. The one thing I will say that I don't know that Jesse maybe realized, his car appeared to be going away and he was losing spots. Nick Sanchez had gotten his car dialed in and was moving forward. So that might have been part of it as well if he goes back and looks at it. Again, did I see anything where I'd wanted to confront somebody on pit road like that? I didn't, but I'm not the driver. And that's why I wanted to know what you saw or knew. But I kind of got the same thing. Maybe it was just a end of the year. Hey, I'm tired of this. We've had our run-ins all year. I'm tired of it. What did they have on the radio, Chris? Nope, Chris said, hold on.
Sorry about that. So I was kind of encased with my son there in conversation when he got home from work. But I think it was pretty much the whole Justin Allgaier in the whole was not actually just talking about the incident today, or the incident from the race, but throughout the series. In the same time, it really we've seen aggressiveness between two teammates, right? Connor Zilic and Shane Van Gisbergen. So maybe I don't know. I don't know if I have a legitimate.
The question we have for you, Chris, is on the radio. What did they say about the confrontation between Jesse Love and Nick Sanchez?
They didn't.
The on-track situation.
They didn't. They didn't really emphasize that there was a situation on the track. That only come up later on in post race, and I actually seen that online, not during the show or during the race. So I'm not sure, if that was just something that the commentators missed, or maybe I was not paying attention at the time, something to that matter. But I seen the altercation later on. Look, Jesse Love has come into Richard Childress Racing at a stagnant point. Richard Childress, though his Cup Series program hasn't been ultra competitive in the last 20 years, since Harvick left, the Xfinity Series quite a different story. They've been very competitive there. Well, the last couple of years we've seen that kind of slip, and Jesse Love is not in superior equipment, so you have to think that maybe he's over aggressive in the equipment, something to that matter. Jesse Love has a lot of talent. I think everybody in this panel will agree with that. I think Jesse Love is a very talented race car driver, and really, a couple of years ago, I would have set sail that he would already be moved up to Cup or be in line for a Cup ride, because he really put a butt whooping on him in ARCA, and then had a really good start in the Xfinity Series driving for Richard Childress. Remember, I think he bypassed the trucks altogether, right? Maybe a couple of starts there, but he was a hot shoe. And now it's kind of the sizzle, the fizzle to the sizzle. But Sanchez, he's not necessarily had the best rides altogether through his career. I think that this little squabble between those two is really not going to be anything significant. It doesn't really hold much weight on itself. I think it was just wrong place, wrong time, and two guys got into it. I think one of the comments was something about not winning races or something to that. So there's obviously some animosity between the two drivers. But look, it's a squabble. It's the end of the year. Tempers are going to flare. No telling what we're going to see at Martinsville, right? So
we'll see it again.
Yeah,
stay
tuned.
Okay, Jay.
Yeah, I didn't see anything on the track that would have even sparked my attention to say, hey, watch these two guys on pit road after the race. I think Chris hit on it there again. I think it's maybe about some history for Jesse Love of just the frustration of multi-years of, not being where he wants to be. And he is in championship contention this year. But like I said, from my perspective, that particular race, the way I saw it, yeah, his car was going away. Sanchez's was getting fired up, and they just crossed paths. I don't see anything egregious on either side though.
Yeah, I think that once they, a lot of times these incidents that happen after the race, once cooler heads prevail, you've got the emotion of the moment. And once the cooler heads prevail, they see it in a different way, or they get a chance to review the footage and they realize that it wasn't as bad as they thought it was or whatever. It did put Jesse Love back a ways, but you bring up a good point, Jay. His car was kind of on the faltering side, where Nick Sanchez was on the uprise and kind of moving forward. So, I think this is going to be one of those things that these guys are going to need to sit down at some point and have that conversation. They didn't throw any fists. They were just having a conversation. They might have got a little
There were a couple of shoulder pokes, but
he did push him.
Yeah, there was a couple of there were a couple of shoulder pokes.
But okay, I didn't see that, I guess. But yeah, I think that it'll be forgotten by next week, hopefully, and they'll move on. And like I mentioned earlier, compartmentalize and put that behind you and move forward. Because if you're going to run for that championship, you can't let things like this hang in the air.
Yeah, and definitely when you're in the Xfinity series, you can't use that. Well, he's a Chevy teammate, so because they're like 90% Chevys in that series anyway. So
Yeah.
maybe that was what Jesse Love was upset about, that Sanchez wasn't. Sanchez is not racing for a championship, right?
No,
he got eliminated the previous round. Yeah.
Well, that may have been what he was upset about. That, hey, you should have known and you should have given me this spot because it means more for my team right now. And is the 48 not secondary, like where do
Big
their
machine.
cars? Huh?
Big machine racing.
Right, but I mean, aren't they getting their cars from Childress?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not sure who their affiliation. Hey, yeah, again, like you said, it's tough to say because they're pretty much all Chevrolets. So
I don't think that 48 comes out of Junior's race shop. I do know that Parker, I think, got a chance to go race over at Junior Motorsports with that fill-in spot, but I don't believe the 48 car is associated. I think it's more associated with RCR than it is with Junior Motorsports. So, that's could be one of those team meeting things. Look, like I said, I want to see it. I want to see these guys, making each other's tempers flare. I like it. I think that's what the fans want to see. But more than likely, we won't see anything more between those two drivers. You said it best, Sharon. I think that Jesse's looking at where he is right now and probably a little frustrated because he was coming in as a really hot hand, a hot shoe, and it's kind of the sizzle has fizzled. It has. I like that too. I like that. I like that little saying. But anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. The sizzle has fizzled.
Okay. Jay, did you have anything more on this one?
No, I really don't. We'll have to see if anything more comes of it, whether or not it does go away and they've had their say and be done, or otherwise, look out come Martinsville.
Yep. Okay, Chris, you want to talk about the horsepower change for 2026?
Yeah, this is good. Like we needed a little bit of an increase, I think, at the short tracks, and I think that'll be all right. That's going to put Goodyear back in another situation, though, where you're changing the horsepower and you're changing the complexity of the car. So now you're going to have Goodyear's finally putting out a tire for what we need at these types of racetracks. And now all of a sudden you're going to increase horsepower, and that's going to change the tire. So we're digging where we take from one, we're going to have to pull from another, right? And that's I don't know what you guys feel like that, but I think that I think the best move, to be honest with you, we've already had the higher horsepower, and it really didn't mean anything. 70 more horsepower. Ooh, that's really not a lot of horsepower. We have a 2 series. One's a 602 and one's a 604, and there's a 50 horsepower difference between the two. We're at a short track. That's about a second difference on time charts.
Mhm.
When you're looking at a 70 horsepower increase, it's going to be a little bit more throttle speed, a little bit more, quicker go. But that's going to be interesting on how some of these tires play out. And if NASCAR thinks it's the right move, I'm not going to argue with it. But there's a reason why we had a decrease in horsepower, and now we're going back up on the throttle response again. So I don't know. It's going to make things. What do you want to outline? Do you want to know? Do you want to see the tire wear? Do you want to see whether or not these guys are able to separate themselves once they get up on each other? I mean, there's going to be several factors, but I'm just really not sure if a 70 horsepower increase is going to make that much of a difference, especially from the visual side of things. It's not going to change much from the visual side. What do you guys think?
Jay?
Is America great again? Because that's what we were promised, and I have yet to see it. I feel like this is the same thing. That's what everybody's pointing the finger to. I just don't see it being the answer. And Chris brought up some great points of what progress has been made with the tire degradation and how they're working is going to change all that. I know the drivers say that gives them the throttle response, and then they can pass and not have to side draft. I feel like it was finally NASCAR said, all right, here, take this and shut up. I'm tired of hearing about it. I don't see that being the ultimate answer. I really don't. I much prefer the tire management. Again, do I want to see tires blowing out and people hitting the wall? No. We haven't seen that. They wear, absolutely. A couple of times it caught them off guard. But that had to do with the colder or whatever. I don't even know that they figured out what caused some of it. So yeah, I don't want to see a dangerous situation with tire wear, but I much prefer the tire wear, seeing drivers manage the tires, and then teams have to work around that and strategize and work with it. And that goes back to SVG on the road course. He manages used tires so much better than anybody else. So I think that goes back to driver skill more than throttle control.
You know what? That's crazy you said that, because that may actually have an influence on how SVG drives road courses. With more horsepower, he may not be able to throttle that speed, because we all know the secret right now to SVG is he's going slow to go fast.
He's got the
And
tire.
so then you add more horsepower, and that may actually throw a jinx, and it may actually throw a wrench in the way that he throttle plays that race car, because it's going to be more aggressive to his throttle response, which there again, it could change how SVG has to race these road courses. I don't know. I guess here we are. We'll see if this makes any difference. But I think we could flip a coin right now and be right on both sides. So.
Then everybody would be happy, because from what I've heard, everybody's tired of seeing SVG win on the road courses anyway. So maybe that's a bonus to what they wanted. I don't know.
Well, I've already heard people coming out. Kyle Larson and some other drivers have come out and they've told us we need to temper our expectations of what the horsepower is going to do, because it may not do be that big of a difference. I do think NASCAR is doing the right thing, but with a modest horsepower increase versus taking a big swing at it. And remember, NASCAR was hesitant to do this because of pending new manufacturers that wanted to come into the sport. So I'm sure they kind of passed this by them as far as what additional cost it's going to be to them to add this horsepower, because that was the whole reason. Remember, they were going to bring race what you brung at Wilkesboro, and they thought about giving a horsepower increase, and everybody complained because it was going to be so cost prohibitive to increase their horsepower for that race. So I think they're doing the right thing by making this a modest thing. They don't want it to be a huge cost to these teams to have a big horsepower change, but they wanted to address what a lot of these drivers are saying that they wanted. But I think we need to temper any expectations. I think Kyle Larson's absolutely correct. We've got to temper ourselves as far as having high expectations that this horsepower change is going to make a huge difference, because it probably is not. I know I have pointed out when this was a big discussion, I was pointing out the drivers that were saying, don't change the horsepower because it's going to it's going to make it not as good as you think it is. They were advocating for tire changes, not horsepower changes. So it is going to be interesting to see what impact it does have. But I do think we have to temper expectations.
What it's definitely gonna do is create more cost.
It's going to create more cost. Exactly
because now
right.
you're gonna have different motors than what you're gonna have for your super speedway and your 1.5 mile racetrack. So now you're gonna have certain motors that are set aside that are built specifically just for the higher horsepower racetracks, and that's going to create more costs. That's going to cost more money. So there you go. We heard it from Doug Yates earlier in the year that anytime you increase horsepower, you're increasing the cost of the sport. So there you go. Those that asked for it, hope they got deep pockets. There's a reason why we cut the horsepower back.
Exactly.
And everybody wants to harp, just like there's a reason why we changed the points.
That's right.
There's a reason, and it wasn't just NASCAR coming up with these ideas. Fans themselves for years called into Dave Moody and said, just slow the cars down, just slow them down, you'll get better racing. And finally they listened. I don't always think as well that the reason why we're not at 1,000 horsepower anymore has a lot to do with safety, and it has a lot to do with the safety of this car. When this car was first introduced, we had 3 major injuries in this race car, and those were at low horsepowers. I think that was at 500 horsepower at the time, right? When Kurt Busch got hurt, right? Maybe we were at the 650, 675 package when Alex Bowman got hurt. But even still, this car, I don't think was made for that kind of horsepower. Anytime you're increasing the horsepower, you're increasing the integrity of the race car. So
Right.
I think that's something that's not being looked at as well. Like, are we over the threshold? How much horsepower can this car handle and still do its job to keep these drivers safe? Because in the beginning, this was a really stiff race car, and it hurt a couple of drivers within a year of the inception of this car. So I know at least 2 incidents. Kurt Busch and Alex Bowman both were injured.
And NASCAR did address that and make some changes in order to absorb that impact, because the car was not absorbing the impact, it was being absorbed by the drivers, and that's never a good thing. Jay?
Yeah, I'm just like I said, I don't see this as the ultimate cure-all. Chris, he brought up some great points of the cost, and then the team owners are the ones not campaigning for it by any means as far as cost. But I don't see it as the ultimate answer. I mean, straight up speed, that outright speed, that's your drag racing. You know what I mean?
Exactly right. And we've heard it for years and years and years. Like you said, Chris, when you go slower, you will go faster. and I don't know. I'm surprised at some of the drivers that were advocating for more horsepower, because you would think they would know that. So I have low expectations with regard to the horsepower change for 2026 personally. Okay, does anybody have anything more you want to say?
Nope.
Okay, let's go to
Talladega week, baby. Woo-hoo!
Yeah, well, let's just talk about this real quick. NASCAR is talking with the teams about sharing any information regarding points for other competitors. You can talk about your points but not the other competitors' points. They actually pulled aside, what was it, 2 teams in the Xfinity?
Two unnamed Xfinity teams.
Yes, they've not told us who those other teams are that they pulled over, but they spoke with them individually, and then they spoke to everybody about sharing information because of the perception. As soon as Denny Hamlin got out of his car and said, had he known the point situation with Ross Chastain, he would have raced him differently. And that for a lot of people, they saw that as race manipulation. So what are your thoughts? Chris, we'll start with you.
If we want to get into race manipulation, anytime a car moves out of the way and allows another car to pass, because that car is a championship car, that is race manipulation.
You're asking me, is that race manipulation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm making a statement that's definitely race manipulation. So, I mean, I understand that the NASCAR doesn't want these teams discussing points, but these guys are going to know what cars are racing for a championship, and they're just going to get it to move over as soon as they see them coming up in their rearview mirror. So we still have race manipulation. They're I mean, does it really make any significant difference? What Denny Hamlin said was that he would have not let Ross, he would have not passed Ross because he felt like he had a better chance of beating Ross in a playoff situation than Joey Logano.
So he would have purposely slowed down and let Ross.
Do you really believe that? Do y'all really believe that?
Yeah,
or was it just Denny trying to get in the head?
That was what was best for Denny Hamlin. So yeah, I do believe that.
Well, and then Ross Chastain wins the championship, and then Denny Hamlin looks like a dummy. Right? I mean, Ross is going to be fast at Martinsville, and Ross is going to be fast at Phoenix. So, I mean, he might have got out of the car and said that, but in all honesty, we don't know if that's really what he would have played. He's just, like, can NASCAR really fine me for saying this? It's such a boundary pusher, right? You can't talk about this, you can't talk about that, but yet we're going to see at Talladega Chevy cars pit with Chevy cars. We're going to see Ford cars pit with Ford cars. That's race manipulation. It's just, it's hard to get away from it. It's going to be there regardless.
Okay, Jay?
Yeah, this is one I think is just an absolute ugly mess. I understand that, at Martinsville, by all means, I think that was collusion for race manipulation. Go back to the Michael Waltrip incident. I think that was years back. So there have been some incidences of that. Specifically, Sharon, you asked the question of would Hamlin have, or you were going back and forth on it. I think Hamlin would have let Chastain by him to not get run over and stuffed in the wall. At that point, after he got out of the car and everything else, he had time to think about it. Oh, hey, if Chastain would have gotten in and not Joey Logano, I can beat him there. I think initially, if he'd have had that info, I think it would have just been, hey, I'm going to get run over, absolutely run over if I don't get out the way. Where do you draw the line is my question. Sharon and I have had multiple conversations on this. If a team says, hey, the guy behind you is on fresher tires and a second faster than you, is that race manipulation? You're telling them, hey, move out the way because this guy's faster. If somebody has just pitted and trying to get back on the lead lap, regardless of whether they're a playoff driver or champion, for that race, is that race manipulation? You're telling them, hey, they are fighting hard for the free pass, and you're in the middle of that battle. It's information and awareness. I don't want to see it become where NASCAR is monitoring this. And, Sharon, we talked about it. They did. Obviously, going back to Alex Bowman and Cole Custer at the Roval, they questioned, hey, why were you guys told to save tires or save fuel or basically slow down? I think it's ugly, and I don't want to be a part of it. Just go ahead and race.
I think you're going to come up with code words anyway.
Yeah, I mean, what we've seen with Cole Custer was definitely race manipulation at the
Well,
Roval.
William Byron too. He was blocking people to protect the drivers in front of him.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just the
I'm
boxing we're
like,
in.
I don't know where you draw the line then, though, because like I said, I mean, you say anything to them of that, you could try and get your black helicopter and connect the dots as to who's trying to help who.
Yeah. But I think it is important that they have the conversation just to remind people that I forget how Steve O'Donnell said it, but they're looking at the integrity of the sport. And when they crown that champion, they don't want there to be any cloud hanging over that head. And that's what they're looking at. How do they protect the integrity of the sport? And that's their job. That's you would expect NASCAR to want to protect the integrity of the sport.
But where was that integrity when Chase Elliott was hitting the brakes on Kevin Harvick a couple of years ago, slowing him down?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think they've seen things like that happening, and they're trying to monitor that stuff at this point.
I think about it of if your goal is to 100, the rule as it's written, and this goes into another discussion, but how you word the rule, it's still got to be open to interpretation. Giving 100% for the best of your team. If going against, in this case, using the Denny Hamlin, Ross Chastain,
Right.
If going against him for the championship down the road gives you the best spot, then yeah, I mean, how can you blame him for saying, I'm going to let him advance versus Joey Logano? We saw what happened last year. We had Joey Logano out of the playoffs. Well, he got back in because Bowman was DQ'd. Guess what? He came back, like you said, Chris, then you look like an idiot. You let him back in.
Yeah, I look at it like Kyle Busch not lapping a car, allowing like William Byron to get his lap back. In a situation like this, where are we going to call that race manipulation? I mean, it's something that we typically would allow throughout the race season, but if it has to do with a playoff driver and you see a driver not putting forth his effort to make a pass or to actually allow the car back around, at what point in time is that called race manipulation? It's something that we've allowed
It's a slippery slope.
It is.
I agree.
It is. Yeah.
It's definitely a slippery slope. Okay, let me see if I can. Okay, I think we're good. Connor Mosack's going to replace Matt Dibenedetto for the last 3 races. That was a news story that came out today.
Or Matt. Why does Matt always get fired?
Because there's something there. I think there's something there. I think about Jay. Remember a few years ago, we went to his hauler.
Yep,
and he
absolutely.
got all bent out of shape that we were at his hauler, but we were part of the media and everything. He talked to us. In the end, he talked to us, but it was just kind of weird because I don't think we encountered that anywhere else.
What happened? Please share the story.
Well,
look, I'm tired and ready to go to bed, but you've intrigued me. Please, I want to hear this.
It's just that he was very suspicious of our being at his hauler. Remember, Jay?
Yeah, well, and part of that was based. I'm pretty sure either Iowa or Chicago.
Remember that woman recommended
that we
right. Talk to him.
It was based on a scheduling thing between him and the PR, and yeah, she was trying to get the interview done for us as well as him for coverage, but that meant doing it in the hauler. So yeah, it was just a little of a different, like you said, of a different scenario. So I don't know, but yeah, I'm with you, Chris. That was my answer on seeing that, and I'm like, just feel so bad for Matt Dibenedetto. I think he is one that is very personable as a driver, as a competitor and all. I know he's never been one to be out winning and dominating races, but doggone, man, give the guy a break.
People want to talk trash about Cody Ware and whatever. But look, ever since Cody Ware let the cat out of the bag about who Matt Dibenedetto was and what he's done, and basically alleged that he cheated on his wife and stuff like that. I can't say that we know for a fact that he did stuff like that, but there's obviously some character issues that Cody Ware was aware of right from the start. And I don't think that any of that was exposed until Cody Ware spoke up about it. So though they villainized him in the beginning for maybe sharing information that he didn't have the full spectrum of to share, but at the same time, from that day forward, Matt has not fulfilled all of those question marks about who his character truly is, and obviously he has some issues. I don't know if the guy's gone a full season without getting fired from any race team. It seems
I mean, let's face it, he's not performed on the track.
right.
He's not running or competing with the top tier level. And I know he's not in top tier equipment, but he should be doing better than he is, I think.
Right.
For one, Chris, you obviously get your information from sites other than race sites. I do, because that was all news to me, and I could care less. That has nothing to do with anything as far as from that perspective. Yeah, I mean,
you're saying you didn't hear about Cody Ware exposing Matt Dibenedetto several years ago at Talladega?
No, nor do I care to. Thank you. Where Matt is with that team as a veteran driver, did I expect a little bit more? Yes, but a driver can only do so much as well if the equipment isn't there. And I have yet to see anybody else do anything better or different with that same equipment. So I think back I feel like with what he did in the Wood Brothers should have put him in a spot to go to the number 2. I got nothing against Austin and Cindric and then Harrison Burton. But when all that shuffle happened, I feel like Matt really did get coased.
Yeah, it's you got to perform on the track though, and he's just not doing it. And I know you can only do so much, but if you look at his finishes have been atrocious.
Well, I think back to the Truck Series. He got Rackley War into the playoffs, which I believe was their first time. Then once they got eliminated, I think it was of moving to the next young gun, if you will, was part of that deal. And that didn't work out for him either. So I don't want to say I went nah, but I certainly thought it.
Okay, I'm looking at his stats.
Issues, obviously.
He's got 1 top 5 and 1 top 10 for the year. His average finish is at 23.1. So,
and I understand that. I mean, I agree. He's certainly not lighting it up or even was in contention for the top 12 in points as far as a championship or anything like that. I can't argue that.
Yeah. Anything anybody else wants to say? Chris, you weren't here when we talked about having a championship round of 4 that includes a super speedway, a short track, an intermediate, and a road course. What do you think of that idea?
Actually, go ahead.
Well,
go ahead, Jay.
No, I was going to say, me and you talked about it offline. We actually never, that's the 3rd week in a row. I think that's been on there. We never did it as a hot topic. You and I had talked about it. But go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead, Chris.
I mean, 10 years ago, I come up with the idea that we should crown a champion for our super speedway, for our short track, for our intermediate, and our road course. Like we should emphasize those tracks, those types of tracks, and show which ones are the best at it, right? Because then you get the real feel of, well, this guy's really good here, and here, and that shows that SVG, he would show up and shine in the road course. I think you would have certain drivers that showed up in plate, super speedway style races. So giving a 4-race scenario with 4 different racetracks, as I said earlier, I didn't see any. I don't see anywhere where that wouldn't be cool. You just change how and where the guys get eliminated, and then you have the 4 guys race for 4 races and see who can win the championship there. I don't really see much change in the structure of the top guys that would be in the final 4 for the final 4 races or final 3 races. You're making guys actually step out and earn that final 4. Basically, what you're doing, I feel like, is you're taking out the final cutoff round, and you're just sticking that as those four races are gonna crown the champion. And so you're eliminating to the 4 a lot quicker than what you would have in the old format. So you kind of but what you will be doing is you're going to give a build up to the final race of the year, and I think that there would be several situations where you know if you won that final race, that doesn't necessarily mean that you would win the championship. And I think that would be okay too. But at the same time, I guess I would be the most in favor of going into the final 4 races or final 3 races and eliminating 2 or one per race, and then have the final 2 at the end of the year. Like, break it down to these 2 guys are going to race for a championship. The one of the third race to the end would be eliminated. Then the next race to the end would be eliminated, and then you have your final 2 race for the championship. I think that's the way it would kind of come out in points anyway. But look, I'm for whatever makes these drivers feel like they've earned that spot. The last thing that I want to do though is go back to a 36 race championship. So I think I've said that many times. If they want to cut it to 4 races and let them race for it, I'm cool with that. I think that would be awesome. I don't think it changes too much other than the emphasis of the last 3 races of winning you're in gets you into the final 4. So it would just move that forward a little bit. We would be looking at that scenario, I think, at race 32, then instead of race 30, what is it, 33, I guess, whatever. I'm not sure. I'd have to sit down and kind of graph it out, but I don't know. Would you guys think it would make a significant difference?
Jay?
Yeah, no, initially I was all for it. Again, you got all 4 types of tracks. I have never been a proponent, whether it be 2 drivers or 4 drivers, it all being on one race, because and I know when you talk about, say, the Super Bowl, that's one game, but there are so many things outside of your control that I don't like seeing the championship come down to that one race. And I know this is obviously outlandish, never going to happen, or the odds of it are astronomical, but you could win 35 races in a row and finish second in that other race. But if whoever wins that final race wins one race for the entire year, they would be the champion. That's where I do have that concern with it being all on that one race. And if that were the case, I would hope somebody would throw that season out altogether. But like I said, the odds of that happening, no. Have we seen it where you do win more races than anybody else and not win the championship? Yes, but that wasn't based off of that one race. It was you didn't show up in the 10 and even make it through to the final race. So I am in favor of it being multiple races, and I think that would kind of satisfy the fans that are asking for the full season. Obviously, you're not going to get the full season, hopefully, but at least a 4-race stretch of, hey, what do you do consistently over 4 races? And again, I like the fact of all 4. As I mentioned to Sharon, though, this got brought up and made me think. Right now, we talk about, the championship race. You got to let those 4 race. You can't interfere with them. Now you're talking about they can't interfere with them over 4 races, not just one. Yeah, I see where there would be negativity around that. But I found you're going to have negativity no matter what. Jeff Gluck put up a post with the old point system after this past weekend, and William Byron and Kyle Larson would be tied. I can't remember who was third, was 24 points back, and then somebody was 42 points back. So you'd have 4 mathematically in it in the old point system. And now you got all these people that are negative against that. I'm like, okay, now you have a different crowd that's speaking up. But I think the biggest thing there is that is absolutely meaningless. Because had the drivers known coming into the season that it was a 36 race points build, they would have raced differently throughout those 36 races. So you can't take the results and try and apply a different standard, because if the drivers had known that standard, they'd have raced differently. There has been several drivers that have said, I don't care what your system, you tell us up front, we're going to look at it and go, how do we need to race to be successful in this system? Point blank. I mean, it really don't matter.
That's the truth. And that is the truth. No matter what it is, the drivers are going to adapt to it and do what they need to do. I've got the playoff points here. I wanted to bring them up. The ones that you were talking about, Jay.
Jeff Gluck's post.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, like I said, I can't. I think it was Kyle Larson, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, and then they brought up Hamlin missing a race because of the birth of his child. In that system, he wouldn't have had a shot anymore.
Let me make it bigger.
All right.
Tell me when it's big enough you can see it.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Okay, so there's the points.
And Christopher Bell. Yep.
Yeah, and if you look at it, William Byron and Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, those are William Byron's below the cut line right now, but I fully expect him to overcome that. Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, Chase Briscoe. The first driver, Tyler Reddick, would be in the top 8. Joey Logano would be 9th. So there's your top 8 drivers right there.
7 of the 8 are the same anyway. I mean,
exactly. 7 of the 8 are exactly the same.
Yep, I believe I stated that earlier.
Yep.
And Tyler Reddick was that close to making it into the playoffs as it is now versus there it shows him as being the one. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Tyler Reddick would still be 116 out. And it takes 61 points for a perfect race.
Right.
So, yeah, it would still be an uphill climb for him. And same with Joey Logano. He's 213 back here. It'd still be an uphill battle. So, okay. I think we can go ahead and call it a day. Jay, do you want to start our roundtable?
I was going to say, I'm going to finish with a statement there, and then just enjoy the racing. Quit trying to pick everything apart, or what channel it's on, what broadcast it's on, whatever. Just enjoy the race. And if you don't enjoy watching NASCAR on TV, go to the Why Not Motorsports Park. 2 weeks. House of Hope. Yep. 2 weeks.
The fall
the Fall Classic coming up.
Next week.
Well, it's not this weekend, but the following. That's why I said 2 weeks. It's 2 Saturdays away. But I'll let Chris go into that. For me, you can follow me on social media, MoparMJ8 on Twitter and Instagram, Michael Hoosman on Facebook. This weekend, I will be heading into Tennessee for some motocross action with the Southern Supercross. Get that on there real good.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah. Yep. Shirts that way too. I'm not wearing pink. Not that I don't support breast cancer, but it's one of their shirts too I got on tonight. So that's what you can look forward to for my weekend.
Chris?
Yeah, you can find me the Flag of Caution on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. You can find us at Chris Yellow Caution Flag Creighton. On Facebook and YouTube. Fall Classic is not this weekend. As a matter of fact, this weekend is Talladega. And then the next weekend is the Fall Classic. And then as I look ahead a whole year from now, we may actually have Talladega and Fall Classic on the same weekend.
Oh, no.
So,
are you going to Talladega this week?
I don't know if that's going to work out too well. But anyway, it's going to be a fun next couple of weeks for us as we close in on the 31st annual Coors Light Fall Classic. We got super late models coming down. Hopefully, we're going to have some big name stars. It's the week after. I think the Dirt Track World Championship is this weekend up at Eldora. So hopefully that'll kind of open the door to give us some pretty big name guys to come down and race for that $20,000 to win. So if you haven't made plans yet, make your plans to be at the Fall Classic. It's not this weekend, it's next weekend. We start on Thursday night for practice, then we race on Friday and Saturday night. I did say that we were racing a full racing program Friday and Saturday night. That was false information. We are running a super late model full program on Friday and Saturday night. We will be qualified heat races for the other divisions, and I believe that our enduro division is just going to race on Saturday night. So,
are you going to Talladega?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
So we're going to make the trip down there. I believe on Sunday morning. There is a 70. It has not rained here significantly since August. Of course, there is a 75% chance of rain this Sunday at Talladega.
Hopefully
so
that
if you're ever in a
changes.
drought, just
schedule a race.
Have NASCAR show up, and they're a drought buster. So I don't know. We have tickets for Saturday and Sunday's events. Hopefully the weather forecast changes between now and then. And the storm front comes in earlier, maybe on a Saturday, and that'll push all the racing to Sunday. That would be great. I don't know how you would race 3 National Series races in one day, but we've done it before. We can do it again. It would be the Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Cup Series. There is a 1 o'clock start time, as most of you know, in the South. Once you get past October, we start losing a lot of daylight real quick. So that's the reason for the early start time. But all in all, we've got a busy couple weeks, and we want y'all to come along. So if you don't have any plans, meet us at Talladega. If not, we'll see you at the Fall Classic.
There you go. Okay, I'm Fan for Racing Sharon on Twitter, Facebook. I am Fan for Racing Site on Twitter. I'm Fan for Racing Sharon. Actually, it's Fan for Racing Blog and Radio on Facebook, as well as our website at fanforracing.com. So later this week, Jay and I will be out with our previews of the NASCAR's Top 3 Series, all racing at Talladega Superspeedway this week. And on Friday, Taz and I will get together and do our fantasy report to help you with your fantasy picks. And I was telling Jay earlier, Chris, I think I finally beat Taz this week. So we'll see what happens. But Talladega is going to be like throwing a dart at the board to see what sticks, because it's a really tough one to predict. So we'll see what happens. But stay tuned for more. And then, of course, we'll be back here next Monday night after we do all of our reviews.
So just a little fill in of where we're at for our fantasy league over at the 110 Nation. Miss Lee Reed is leading with 317 points. I am 25 points off of the lead. Taz Taylor is 15 points. I did have William Byron to win this past weekend. So you can only imagine what that would have done for me to be able to catch these two if William Byron had not wrecked out. So we're going to have to do a lot of catching up to do. 25 points is not that bad going into 3 races on the season. I just got to make sure that my picks count. Talladega could be the deal buster. I really felt like after William Byron got wrecked, that was going to be the end of my season. But now just looking at 25 points out, I feel like I'm going to have to really make it count at Talladega in order to try to close this thing in and get the championship. But thanks for giving me an opportunity to spill my opinions here on Fan for Racing, and look forward to next week's episode already.
Chris, you sound like you pick like I do. If I were to pick, SVG would lose a tire at a road course, and Connor Zilic would break his 18 race top 5 streak if I picked him. That's how bad I was.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, that seems to be
I
how it goes.
definitely carry the broadcaster's curse.
I was so impressed the week before I picked Kyle Larson and he actually finished 7th. Normally when I pick Kyle Larson, that's
Yep,
when he
exactly.
does one of his shenanigans. And yeah.
Okay, well, we hope everybody enjoyed the show as much as we enjoyed doing it. And we didn't get any interaction again tonight, but we did have a few people drop in to hear what we had to say. And we'll see how it goes with the video once we publish that. So anyway, thank you guys for being part of our Fan for Racing crew here and discussing hot topics on Monday nights with us. And I'll look forward to next week as well.
Bye.
All right. Enjoy the week.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you in the next video.